Welcome to Cars on Call. I am automotive journalist Steve Schutz. I'm here with trauma surgeon Stephan Moran. We are the only podcast that has a trauma surgeon that's done research on car crashes and has operated on car crash victims. So that sets us apart. Dr. Stephan.
Well, there's a lot of car crashes out there today. This giant storm that's moving across the country is just putting ice and snow and making driving difficult. Actually, when I came
Yeah, but
home
you don't have
to,
to worry about it. You're in Alabama. It's not going to be
okay,
cold there.
it's going to be 17 degrees before the morning, and right now we're sitting at 34 and it's still raining. The
It's always
prediction had,
17 degrees there, but it's Celsius.
yeah, yeah. So no, it's going to be cold. But actually, driving home today, I went to a friend's hunting camp. It was raining so hard, I actually switched my F-150 into slippery mode, which is what they call four automatic, so you actually it turns into on-demand all-wheel drive. And it actually felt a little better. It felt much more steady because there's puddles on the interstate. And I saw two cars that had just spun out on the interstate into the grass. I mean, they didn't hit anybody, but they just obviously hydroplaned. Kind of a lousy piece of interstate that they're in the chance of repairing. So be careful out there.
People think that pickup trucks, especially full-time, full all-wheel drive pickup trucks or full-time four-wheel drive pickups are great in the snow. And they're good in the snow, but because of the light rear end, they're not great in the snow. That's why you got to put sandbags back
Yeah,
there
no, they're not great in the snow. Not at all.
or heavy rain. So, damn. Well, we're going to talk sports cars, not snow cars. And yeah, I heard Nashville's getting snow, and of course, the Northeast is already getting tons of snow. But anyway, we're going to talk sports cars. We're going to talk trauma surgeon safety, of course. And then we've got car spotting, and it's now 2026. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a wrap up of what's up and what's down in car sales in 2020, 2025, what sold, what didn't sell. We'll get into that. So let's start with sports cars, Stefan, because we love sports cars. We think they're fantastic. And sadly, I was thinking about this. They make up about 1% of new car sales, which is just really sad. And that was not always the case. I remember, when I still read car magazines. I still get Car and Driver, Road and Track, believe it or not. And the reviews are of regular everyday cars, and you just don't see reviews of sports cars. Stefan, don't you remember like in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the road and track would have a lot of sports cars.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I think probably the MG, what was it, TD, the original MGs, and then the started racing, gentleman racing in California. SCCA was born in the Roadster, and sports cars became popular. And so let's go back a little bit. So what do you define? I think everybody may have a little bit different definition of what a sports car is. But our generation grew up with them. And what to you, like, what are the top three things that a sports car defines a sports car?
Small,
Yes.
light, two doors, two seats, manual transmission.
Well,
And I
then
can,
there's no,
I,
then there's no 911s because they
I
got four
know.
seats.
I was going to make an exception where tiny seats that are good for
Yes.
packages.
Yes. Seats that are kind of an afterthought joke. Yes, I agree. Convertible. I think it's convertible or a coupe version of the convertible. I think that's key. Two doors, manual. I'd kind of have to throw in there. I think it's got to be rear-wheel drive.
I had not thought of that. I think you're right.
I think it's got to be rear-wheel drive. And token back seats. That's why, people say, oh, the Mustang's a sports car. No, it's not. It's a pony car. It's an American muscle car. It is not a sports car. Does it drive like a bat out of hell? Yeah. Well, so does an M5. I mean, so does a M series SUV, and all these SUVs drive faster than most sports cars today. But yet, small two-door roadster coupe, no back seat or token back seat. Then I think rear-wheel drive and this, and then and
And
also
light.
light, and it is designed to drive a little bit enthusiastically.
It's light, so we'll never have an all electric.
No,
sports car until they
no.
get the batteries lighter. But yeah, you mentioned the MG. It's the MGTC,
TC,
and
that's right. I knew there were T somethings.
yeah, and American cars and all the cars on the United States roads before World War II and during World War II were these big kind of, the exactly the kind of cars you see in It's a Wonderful Life. These big, slow Fords, Model
55
A,
Chevy. Yep.
Chevys. These are big, slow cars, but that's, they got around. It was better than a horse, so there everyone was happy. But the GIs came back from World War II where they'd seen these sports cars, particularly the British ones, and they brought these MGTCs back to the United States with them. And all of a sudden, people were like, wow, this is pretty cool. And that started the whole movement. Thinking back, there was the really famous sports cars. And we're going to name our five top sports cars almost as a eulogy. But thinking back, you had the MGTC, which would have been really 50s, early
Yep.
50s, maybe late 40s. And of course, after World War II, GI stayed in Europe for quite a while. In fact, we're still there. But and they so it wasn't like they all came over here in 1945. If they were stationed in Germany or England or France in the 1950s, then they could bring a car back, and they did. And then the 60s, I think of the E-Type Jaguar, where you took this old kind of an MG looked like an old car, and it turned it into, it was designed by an airplane designer. It looked almost jet age, so that was the big one then. And then in the 70s, the Z car and the Japanese sports cars, and then in the 80s, you of course then you start really thinking Porsche, but just these little sports cars. There was another Z in the 90s that was really popular and good, and now they're kind of gone. I mean, think about it, Stefan. It's like you still have the 911, the Boxster's now gone, the Cayman's gone. You got the Mazda Miata hanging on by a thread, and the Corvette, and isn't that kind of it?
But yeah, I mean, that really is. I mean, Supra, I think is pretty much gone. So yeah.
I guess the
Anyway,
the Supra's still there, also hanging on by a thread.
thread.
There's the other the 86, the Toyota 86 thing that what they twinned with Subaru,
Super, right.
underpowered. You could
No.
argue that the Miata is underpowered. Uh, Supra is mispowered because that has a BMW engine. It still bothers me. So, um, right? I mean, it's kind of it.
That's it.
There's a Z4 BMW, the twin of the Supra. But anyway, they're all because Stefan, they're all becoming like the Z4 is heavy, the Supra is heavy. There's a 400Z that's really heavy. These are not what sports cars used to be, nimble, light, all that stuff you're talking about.
Right. And I think the other key thing you got to think about is because of the influx of all the English sports cars, they were affordable. I mean,
Ah,
high school, you could afford them. I mean, they're the used MGs and all those, the Triumph Spitfires, the TR6s, they were actually affordable. I mean, you could get a kid who worked hard could buy a used one. Now, probably the cheapest sports car is the Miata. It's still pricey, and it's
yeah.
not something a teenager's going to want anyway, but even not really be able to afford. So, and there aren't a lot of these. There's just not used sports cars out there. There's very few.
And I think that we've entered the era, when we grew up, new cars, new sports cars, what people wanted to get and they would buy. Now, I think the only really accessible sports car is a used one, and
Yep.
and you've got a used Miata. That's a
Yep.
perfect example. And people buy a used Boxster or a used smaller 911. So I think it's a different time. And I get it. Time moves on, and we'll talk about that with new cars and what people are buying. That we know they're not buying sports cars. So, with that as kind of a background, let's go through our five top.
Okay.
Uh, just list your five top ones, and what we think were the best of all time. And I wanted us to be specific, and I was hoping we'd all pick ones that are not obvious, but I wanted us to be really specific, like, okay, the gen or the year of the sports car that we think is top five really all time. with the knowledge, and I didn't want like, yeah, okay, the Ferrari F40, sure, but that's not a real. No one's people weren't buying them when they were new because they couldn't afford them and they were rare. So I want, kind of things you would see on the road, and that's what I kind of wanted, and that's what I listed.
Okay. I did a little bit different than that, but you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Let me go first.
Okay.
Why don't you go first, and then I'll go, and then we'll do the safety
All
car.
right. So I gotta find mine now. Mine are going to be in no particular order. Where's that? There it is. Okay.
Yeah, this
Five.
is like, it doesn't have to be numerical because the five, I guarantee the five you came up with, just like the five I came up with,
Yeah.
are great sports cars. And
Yeah.
it's hard to, so this is the kind of thing I always think of like Hall of Fame. And
Okay.
Hall of Famers are never numbered. There's not like the best Hall of Famer. It's just like, okay, you're a Hall of Famer, and this would be your Hall of Fame sports cars.
These are my, it says, here's my, no particular order. So,
I almost
1960,
picked this one. I did pick, and
1960.
if I had six, this would have been number six.
You're going to see a common theme in the colors of my vehicles too. But so this is a 1963 split window Corvette Stingray. And a little bit of history about this car. So for listeners, it's the Stingray, the first, the big change is the Stingray. The initial sketches were done by Pete Brock, who ended up doing a lot of Cobra work, and he did the initial sketches, and then Larry Shinoda under Bill Mitchell then finished the design. And Bill Mitchell he was a design chief at General Motors, and he really wanted to go for this aesthetic, stylistic choice, a Stingray. So he wanted inspired by marine life, and he kind of liked the ideas like the Bugattis had the spine on, like the Atlantic. So he wanted a spine created on the back or a stinger look, and that's why he had the rear window split.
Supposedly, he was on vacation and saw an actual Stingray and said, "Ooh, I can integrate that into a car."
That's cool. But they dropped it in 1964 due to poor rear visibility, and a lot of people complain about it that you can't see anything, and now you've got another pillar in your rearview mirror, and it's not safe and all that. And well, these are the most coveted of these Stingrays because they only were there for 1 year, and I just think it's to me every time I see any Stingray, just it's the shape, the design. As you know, I'm not a big General Motors guy, but I absolutely love the Corvette Stingray, and the '63 split window to me is just ultimate sports car.
I completely agree. It was so cool back then, achingly cool, and just absolutely beautiful. It's Lucerne blue, one of the GM's best blues they ever made.
Oh my God.
Damn, I love it.
All right, so being a French heritage, I've got to go overseas. So this is a car most Americans will not know. You may know the new one, but this is the 1961, the year I was born, Renault Alpine 110. And I remember going to France and seeing these cars, and it was like nothing I had ever seen before. It was just a very cool design. It was way ahead of its time. Giovanni Micheletti designed this for Alpine, and he also did several of the Vignale bodies of Ferrari, and nearly every Triumph, from the TR4 to the Stag, was designed by him.
And this car was what year?
It's 1961.
Yeah, this came out close to when the 911 came out, but the 356 was already out. Like them, this is rear engine.
Yep, here you go. That's my next picture. There's the engine in the rear, four cylinder. And the other thing that to me, I think is, and here's my very favorite view, which is the one you'd see of the Renault Alpine with all the driving lights on the
Oh,
front.
yeah.
And the Alpine 110 won the very first World Rally Championship in 1973, a car that was essentially 12 years old.
Wow.
So, and it took them to their first title. They got 6 wins out of 13, including Monte Carlo. And it's so to me, this is, a sports car defined. And what's really cool is the engine's in the back. It's a very different design, but I love that car. I wanted to say Citroen SM, but it's not a sports car. All right, now we're going to kind of switch to my other very favorite car. We all know what this one's going to be. All right, the Shelby Cobra. Now, when people think of the Shelby Cobra, they think of the SC with the side pipes and all that. I've been there, done that. No, this is to me, what is called the street version, or more formally known as the Roadster, the 427 Roadster. No hood scoop, no roll bar, no boy racer shit, no side pipes. And then if you look at this one that I've got pictured, this is what Peter Portante at ERA, who's building my car, my Cobra. If you look at the rear fitment, of this. He says this is like a dually, but it's missing a set of tires. So what happened was this rear fender is gigantic, and the little 7.5 inch rim tire disappears into it. What happened was they ran out of the Halliburton rims, which were 9.5s. So Pete Brock designed these wheels, and they're called the Sunburst wheels, but they were 7.5 all around. That's just how they could make them. Well, you put a 7.5 inch rim with a smaller radial in the back of a fender made for a 9.5 inch rim with a Goodyear gumball meatball tire on it. You get this look. So Carroll Shelby saw this and he said, that looks terrible. So then they came up with the narrow hip Cobra. So they pulled the fender back in. This is a picture of a fender with a narrow hip. So this is what's called, and they only made 32 Cobras that had narrow hips before they got the wide rims back, and then they went back to the rear end car. So I'm making a narrow hip Cobra. So that is to me, this is just, and here's the one that won at Pebble Beach in 2013, CSX 3130, the most gorgeous street Cobra. And mine will look exactly like this, except for it'll be a different color.
It's such a classic. I knew you were going to pick a Cobra, of course,
Yeah.
but guess what? The Cobra is in any Hall of Fame, and you take a really beautiful roadster and you add basically limitless power, whatever you want, Ford engine in there, and there's many options. You're going to have an incredibly fast car. It's nimble, it's light, and in this case, it's overpowered.
Way, yeah, yeah. For the better driving Cobra is actually a 289. The what people call a slab side. It drives a lot better than a 427. It doesn't need that monster engine. So that was my. Here's my next Hall of Famer. Of course, it had to be a Porsche, but this is a 911 SC Cabrio, probably about a 79 or 80, and that was what I thought was my dream Porsche. And as time has evolved, the model I would actually go with, let me come back here. I don't want a full with air cooled. So this is a 2011 997.2, but this is the GTS. And this is just an aqua blue metallic. I would get rid of these dark rims. I hate these dark rims on this car. But it's got the power kit with the 3.8 liter, 408 horsepower, and rear wheel drive only with a 6 speed manual gearbox. And for me, this would be this is the Hall of Famer sports car Porsche for me of all the ones. It's really yeah, sure, the ST or all this. No, this is one that you could actually. This is obtainium. It's not unobtainium. So that's my pick for the mother sports car. And most any Porsche falls into this category if possible. Now the next pick is a little bit of a controversial one, but the 1984 Ferrari Testarossa. I was a freshman in college, and this thing screamed the most outrageous sports car. The Lamborghini Countach was just too much for me. This stretched the limit to me of a sports car. It was ostentatious, but to me, this is just with those giant rakes on the side for the intakes. To me, this is Sports Car Hall of Fame. Just it's so ballsy. I just love it.
I can't argue with it. I used to, when it came out, I hated the strakes on the side. I thought it was too wide, too
Yes.
big, too much, very Miami Vice. But with time, it's funny how a lot of these cars we thought were large are small now because our cars have
Yes.
grown so much. These cars that we thought were too big are not too big. And that's a great example. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not too big. You see one in person, and the design has really grown on me. It's now I'm like, all right, I didn't like it at the time, but by the way, give me a car that's more 80s than that car.
Oh yeah. But to me, the Countach to me is still kind of too much, too outrageous. It doesn't. Yeah, it's cool, but I would never want one. But that Testarossa, to me today, it never fell out of favor with me. I just think it's just a fantastic design.
No,
Pop-up
I,
headlights, it's
I
just
agree.
accurate. It's just it's gorgeous.
Well, my list starts with the NA original 1990 Mazda Miata MX-5, and I have driven it. I loved it then. I think it's great now. It's just, we've talked about the Miata at length in the show, so I'm not going to belabor it. And I specifically picked it in blue because most of the ones you see are red. And I love this blue. It came in four colors. It was white, blue, uh, silver or red, and that was it for the colors, as I recall. Later, you can get one in British
And you
Racing
got
Green.
black interior across all colors.
Yeah,
Black cloth
so
interior.
so this is, you know, I'm not going to belabor it, but I think this is absolutely a Hall of Fame car. If someone were to just drop it at my house, I could drive this every day and be very happy. So
I
this
think it's a
is
great
it.
choice.
Yeah, scroll down and I had this in 1972 240Z. Mine was orange. I think orange is the right color. These are aftermarket wheels, but in period, these are the kind of wheels people had. This was the aftermarket wheel to get for this particular car. Just like, a lot of muscle cars, you had to have Krager wheels. I don't even know what brand this is. I did not have it. I had the standard hubcaps. But this car in this color with these wheels, four-speed manual, inline six, 2.4 liter, wonderful Japanese engine, Japanese reliability, Japanese build quality. Sadly, also very rustable Japanese steel from the 70s. So
Yes,
that's the only bad thing about it. So I had this, I loved it. It was wonderful. I mean, you love them too, right, Stefan?
absolutely. I just think this. I've always been a big fan of this cam back kind of style two-door coupe. Long hood, a, a long head on the front, the top kind of rakes back to the end. Yeah, I remember when these came out and loved them then, love them now. I'd like to drive one again one day. I think I'd probably end up wanting a a little bit resto version, resto rotted 280Z. They come up on 240s and 260s. They come up on Bring a Trailer, but it's kind of like driving the original Mark 1 GTI. It's not quite as enjoyable as you thought it would be. But I think this would still, even probably in purely original form, it would be pretty nice drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Next is I went back and forth 63 split window, but I went with the astronaut Corvette. And this is a 1968 big block and I would want this, the really big engine, four-speed manual, overpowered, you can spin the wheels in third gear, assuming they're bias ply. I'm not a convertible guy, but I'm like I'm getting this one in a convertible. I like black on black, black on black on black. I
I
like
think it
this
looks
one.
better in convertible.
I think it does too for this particular.
It looks more Ferrari-esque. It looks more European, especially with the little flip spoiler on the back. You know, yeah, I think it's a great call.
And the luggage rack, but I'd feel like like a graduated from the Air Force Academy, and we
Yeah.
had Dennis Carter on. He graduated from the Air Force Academy, and he said they would go down to the dealership, and they would order from Chevrolet every spring they would order something like 200 of these, and it's incredible. I mean, can you imagine going in and ordering like 200 Corvettes? Back then, that's what they would do because these kids all had money. They didn't have any debt. I love this car.
Yeah, good, great call. And yet, kind of
Um,
a Corvette had to be on somebody's list. I mean, and we have two Corvettes, so
yes.
yeah, absolutely, a true American sports car.
Yeah. I was on the Long Island Expressway. I was probably, so I would have been, if you do the math, 13 years old. My dad was driving, and we were behind the first 911 Turbo, the 930. I'd read all about it. I couldn't believe I was seeing one. And this guy was driving it in the fast lane, and he was going like, 65 and a 65. And we're right behind him. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, geez, that guy's just sitting there with his turbo. And all of a sudden I saw this like puff of smoke and he just took off. He was gone. And 70s, all these cars were slow. So the idea that this car could be that fast, it just shocked me at just how fast he just sprinted away from us. And it made quite an impact. Of course, I love the design, the whale tail, the wide hips in the back. So this for me really made an impact. Ironically, I don't want one, and I already didn't really want one because I heard they weren't great to drive, and then you drove one.
Right. I drove one in 1988, and it was it was when that turbo kicked in on Edwin C. Moses Boulevard in Dayton, Ohio, right there by St. Elizabeth. It was like literally a time warp. and the cars were coming at me the opposite direction. I wasn't, it was just this weirdest thing. It was like Star Trek, hitting. But I recently drove Darren Johnson's 930 Turbo that he did sell. He sold it. And it was not a pleasurable drive at all. The steering was stiff. Your feet were offset. The clutch is stiff. And then you're managing the turbo boost on and off. And yeah, I think it's why I would not, if I drove an SC, like the dream car that I always thought I wanted. I love the looks of an SC, the 911 SC, but it just wouldn't. Yeah, this is great to look at and to talk about, but I would never drive it. I don't like it.
Never
The
meet
pro-
your heroes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And the last one, this is like a Cobra. I knew you were going to pick a Cobra, but I've always liked the Tiger, Sunbeam Tiger. This is a 1963 Sunbeam Tiger. And I always liked it. It's small, it's light, but it does have a small block 289 Ford engine, manual transmission. So you get the nimble, small British car. I like the styling of this. It's based on, of course, the Sunbeam Alpine,
Yes,
but
which my dad had.
that's right. And then I like the design, but the idea that you have this rumbly Ford V8, I love it.
Yeah, and it had I want to find, I'm looking for a picture here. I want to find, oh, here it is. So the thing I loved about the Sunbeam was first, it had the first small block Ford. So it was a 260 engine, which is all that
Oh,
you need.
260. Okay.
The 260, right. It was not the 289 that came later in the Cobra. So this was 260. And there were some original Mark One Cobras that had 260s. So I'm going to stop share here. But what the look at this here. So I'm showing you, those of you aren't watching. This is the rear view of the Sunbeam Tiger. The fenders are almost like fins. Okay, they're tall and they go back with these super long oval taillights. That to me, that's my favorite view of the Alpine and the
Yeah.
Tiger is that three rear quarter view with those fenders. The front end's really cool, kind of this big oval, but that I love the fenders on the Alpine and the Tiger.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, it's not farewell to the sports car, but it's pretty close, and it's probably farewell to the new sports car
Yeah.
pretty soon. So it's very sad. Just like the manual transmission, the sports cars are probably destined for oblivion, which is too bad. So, trauma surgeon safety topic. What do you got?
Oh, something that did not make our news in America, but it did make worldwide news, and I think it's important so one of the probably the biggest Chinese manufacturer of automobiles who also owns Volvo is a company called Geely. And, when they brought Volvo in, I always kind of wondered, what are they going to do with Volvo's safety? They going to take that as part of their heritage, or what are they going to do? Well, in China, Geely just opened up a new safety center that focus on enhancing vehicle cybersecurity because they're very concerned about that. Standards of software safety features, so they're looking at this all from incorporating together as well as regular crashes. And so this new safety center they built set five new Guinness records, which I thought was hysterical. Number one, it cost $284 million, the world's largest automotive safety laboratory, bigger than everybody else's. Their test track is over 1,000 feet long. So that's three football fields. They have the largest altitude climate wind tunnel, so they can replicate any weather anywhere in the world at any altitude, which I think is really cool. They did 27 tests in one day, 11 vehicle level tests, 7 system level tests, is on and on. They have 60 different crash dummies. That's my whole automotive research from the beginning was all about. I did not like the fact that we just had the hybrid 3 male crash dummy to represent everybody that ever got in a car. They've got 60 different crash dummies. And
You've said, Stefan, your idea is line up like 30 different crash dummies. The car comes in, and then it's like randomly selected which dummy, and you have to pass all of them.
yep, exactly. Right. That was what I professed for years and actually went on NPR radio talking about I got with Kai Risdall, I got interviewed about that research I kind of went around proselytizing and preaching that that's what we needed. And finally, we are getting some new crash dummies, but it takes forever. But, Steve, you have talked about this a lot. Cybersecurity. So they have a entire facility designated to cybersecurity testing of electric and autonomous vehicles. Because, that's kind of everybody's fear. All of a sudden, somebody takes over your car or they bust through the software, you know? So, and the reason I want to bring this up is I've talked about that we have to be, we cannot get behind the Chinese. We are behind. We cannot get further behind on this transitioning to cars being basically fully automated software electric vehicles. That, not in my lifetime, but it'd be damn near close that we're going to see a lot of autonomous vehicles. So next that brings us to, Canada dropped their 100% tariff on Chinese vehicles, and they've got a new deal trade going on. 49,000 Chinese EVs are going to be able to come into Canada at a 6.1% tariff rate, and the quota is going to go up to 70,000 over 5 years. They've got it for affordable models, but I always wondered about Chinese safety. Now, I'm sure I mean, Hyundai makes some awful car. Every Ford had that, what was that, the Ka, some little Korean car. So every manufacturer has cars that aren't as safe as others. But I was really impressed with this, that they are ready to take on the world from manufacturing, delivery, as well as safety. So just once again, just I worry about the Chinese and their effect on our automotive industry. But this is a really cool thing to me that they're doing. And one of the new, largest and most advanced in the whole world. So,
I love it, and I'm glad somebody's doing it. We need to do more of this. On the one hand, I'm gratified that our cars are much safer than they used to be. On the other hand, I'm not gratified that we still have 40,000 deaths a year. So obviously, we are falling short. If you can hack into a car, this is theoretical and no one's doing this, but think about it. I mean, if you can hack into a car, the lane center warning, lane center assist steers the car. So you can steer the car, and your active cruise control does acceleration and braking, and you can steer and brake and accelerate and take over those systems if you can get in and hack it. And then just we think we're so smart. And I guarantee you, every engineer that engineers these cars thinks no one can hack in. Well, guess what? They did not predict that in Europe, thieves would be taking off the headlights and getting into the neural system of a car through the headlight and being able to go through the headlight, taking off the headlight and going through those, whatever the wire is, and all of a sudden you can start the car and drive away. No one predicted that.
well, yeah, think about it because cars, the way all these autonomous systems work is that they've got sensors like our eyes that feed the central brain, the CPU that then steers the car, drives it. Well, those headlights have sensors in them. It could, I don't know if they're which cars they were, but it could be LiDAR, radar, or just a camera. So you think about it, if you take the wire that comes from the camera, you can make that camera see what you want it to see.
That's it. I hadn't thought about that. You're
Yeah,
right.
right. That's it. So if they can, and there's a great, I can't remember. I think it was,
It can see a wide open road when you're heading toward a brick wall.
yes, if they did, somebody did that, made that big paper open road in front of a bunch of styrofoam blocks, because it was visual only, didn't have LiDAR. And, but that's where we're headed. But I don't berate the Chinese, but I worry about our automotive industry. But I'll sleep easier with this because they are making a huge investment in safety. And that many crash dummies, I gotta like it. I mean, you know,
I love it. I was thinking, you mentioned like 20 or 30. They doubled it.
yeah, unbelievable.
All right, car spotting. What do you got?
All right, so let me go back to my share here. So all right, I was deer hunting at a dear friend's house in,
That's funny.
um,
Dear friend.
dear friend
Of course he's a
in
dear friend. You're deer hunting.
Aliceville, Alabama, which I'm telling you, man, is like in the middle of nowhere. It's past Tuscaloosa on the way to Mississippi, and
Whoa.
we're driving through downtown Aliceville, Alabama, and I see this. I'm like, what? So if you're not, imagine somebody taking a Honda Accord and just drilling on, slapping on all kind of aerodynamic accoutrements, putting stickers all over it. And here's a picture of the back. Oh, here's a picture of the front. 001. And I didn't even know what this. I'm like, what is this style? I have no idea. So I actually went to Chat GPT and I dropped it into Chat GPT and said, what kind of new car scene style is this? And I had no idea, but this is what is comes out of Japan. Imagine that. But it's called time attack style. So a huge racing series right now in Japan is what's called time attack. So that drifting came from Japan. Now time attack is where you get one lap and you only get one lap and it's the best time. Who records the best time for one lap? So these cars that are doing these things, they are just strapping on these gigantic spoilers, fenders, and so it's called time attack style. And I was like, okay, I'm a little too old for it, but
I have a couple thoughts, none of them good. Um, you know, this is so intensely ugly, but it reminds me of, the Auto Week writer we used to love. He's retired, Corey Farley.
oh yeah, Corey, yeah, Adventures with Corey, or what was it?
Yeah, Corey Farley. So Adventures with Farley,
Yeah, Adventures
and
with the Farley.
instead of Adventures with Charlie. So Adventures with Farley, and he said he was describing a car like this, and he said the guy spent more on this car than it's worth to make it worth even less. And that's what this is. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Who's going to buy that car? And it's incredibly ugly. And I guarantee you, this guy's girlfriend has fake eyelashes, a wig, tattoos, and, you know, butt implants and lip implants. It doesn't make a girl look better. And it's unspeakably, horribly, terribly ugly.
Yeah. So what this reminded me of, somewhere I've got the picture. I don't think I can find it right now, but I was driving. I think I was coming back at Thanksgiving. That's right. And I saw a BMW M3 that had been a little bit kind of tricked out after marketed, but he had this 2-inch wide by a foot long piece of webbing, red webbing, like strap hanging off his bumper. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Well, it's to fake look like a kill switch for a track. So they come up behind your car and pull it. But it's fake.
Yeah,
I'm like, you gotta be kidding. I had to use Chat GPT to figure out
right.
what that was as well. Somewhere I've got that picture. But God almighty. Yeah.
Well, another reality, Stefan, is the fact that an old guy like me detests this car. I guarantee it for the driver who's young, it's a feature, not a bug, that I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it.
He
I'm
probably
looking
loves that I
real
hate it.
yeah, I'm looking real quick to see if I could find this picture. I don't think I can. No. All right. But I hate it. Yeah. And think about this. This is a Honda Accord, right? Four-door Accord. It probably has a total of 100, 200 horsepower, no, 140 horsepower. But he just added 80 pounds of plastic kitsch to this car so it's going to be even slower.
Yeah,
And
it's all.
I can't even imagine aerodynamic drag on it.
Yeah, you say all show and no go.
Yeah.
Well, this is all ugly show and no go. So,
Yes.
all right, new car sales.
All right.
Thanks for that, I think. I'm gonna go through this. I'm
I
gonna go,
think.
I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly.
All
I don't
right.
want to bore people with numbers,
Because
but
I've already that's one of my favorite expressions. Please don't confuse me with the numbers. I've already made up my mind.
yeah. Well, anyway, 2025 is over. I always like to go through the sales. I think they're instructive, and basically, it was a good year. A great year in the United States is 17
Yeah.
million sales. We had 16.3. That's the best since COVID. No surprises. The top seller, F Series pickups, 828,000. Number two, Chevy.
828,000.
Yeah, almost
Oh,
830,000.
oh
A
my
good
gosh.
year, a bad year is like 700,000. A good year is a million. And they've
It was
had
just a,
years where they go 980, that kind of stuff. So this I'd call a good year, but not a great year. A great year is close to a million. Chevy Silverado, number two, about 580,000. Yeah, just leave it on the pickups for now.
yep.
Then we go, you can scroll down now, RAV4, Toyota, Honda CRV, the same thing. Then Ram pickup. Number six is GMC Sierra. Interestingly, Stefan, maybe not that interesting, but I follow this. I always add up the Chevy Silverado plus the GMC Sierra because they're the same truck. Those are
Right.
GM big trucks, and they are almost always less than Ford F Series. This year they're more. It's 943,000. So together,
Wow.
GM sold more full-size pickups than Ford, and I can't remember last time that happened. So that's pretty interesting. And then finally at number seven, you got a car, the Camry, and that's the only car. Number 10 is the Tesla
It
Model
used to be
5.
the Honda Accord used to be up there at the top.
Honda, the Accord was the best-selling car in the early 90s,
Yep.
and it was the Ford Taurus was the best-selling car, and it was really close to the F Series, but now cars are really faded. Luxury, again, I remember my uncle back in the 80s used to work for BMW North America. He said a really good year for them was 100,000. That was kind of their benchmark. Anything over was good, anything under was not so good. BMW sold 388,000, almost 400,000 vehicles. Lexus 370, Mercedes 303. These are big numbers. It shows the democratization of these luxury brands. The best-selling luxury car, of course, the Lexus RX, then the NX, the BMW X5. So that's interesting, but whatever. Here's one little, I have a few comments about sales that are interesting. We have been talking since 2021 about the Ford Bronco. Ford Bronco sales this year are up 37%. It's now
Up 37%.
146,000 Broncos. It's getting really close to the Wrangler, Jeep Wrangler 167. This is the closest the Bronco has ever come. And Stefan, you see many Jeep Wrangler rental cars. I've never seen a Ford Bronco rental cars. I bet if you looked at retail sales, I think the Bronco might be closer, even ahead.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. Yeah.
Pretty cool, right? We love the
Very cool.
Bronco.
Yeah, I love the Bronco. That's great. I'd like to see it surpass the Jeep.
Automotive News mentioned that if you add up the market share of full-size pickups, it's 14% of market share, and they said it's 60% of profits. And I think that vastly understates it, mostly because GM especially makes tons of money from their full-size SUVs, and it's just a pickup platform with a body on it.
Right.
So. Anyway, Tacoma's a big winner. Toyota's
Very.
doing really, really well. If you add Toyota plus Lexus, it's incredible. Compact crossovers, the RAV4, the CRV, the Equinox, the Bronco Sport, the Sportage. Stefan, do you ever get sick of even being aware that these exist?
Yes.
They're so fucking boring.
They are. This whole compact SUV cookie cutter cars that are just, I mean, they sell a shit ton of them, but they all look the same to me. There's just not a lot of identifying characteristics between any of them, and to me, it is an incredibly boring segment of cars. I guess it's kind of like it's the new minivan segment of that's just they're boring,
Yeah, they're boring.
boring. But sometimes when you're young and you got a young family, you can only afford boring, but you're getting a lot of utility out of it. So I do understand why they sell, but
I'm
that's
not a
me.
hater, but I am
I'm
a
not.
disliker.
Yes.
BEVs are really collapsing. They're stuck at 8% market share, but it's dropping fast. The the best-selling BEV is a Tesla Model Y. It was down 88,000 units, so it's definitely
Wow.
down. The average transaction price was $48,000. That's a lot. Affordability is a big thing now.
$48,000.
2019, before the COVID, what do you think the average transaction price was? You want to take a guess? It's 48,000
2019,
now.
I would say 28,000.
It was 35, but you're very,
35.
very close. And I want to make one point because I I have noticed, and I don't know what it's like down there, Stefan. I am seeing Forerunners, Land Cruisers. This is the new one, the new Forerunner, the new Land Cruiser, and the new Lexus GX everywhere. Are you seeing that?
No, I've seen some of the new Land Rover and maybe one of the GXs. Down here, it really is predominantly pickup trucks. I mean,
Pickups.
honestly, you go to parking lot, it's pickup trucks and a lot of large SUVs. I'm still see I see more Camrys. I just for some reason now the four my I've changed from seeing Forerunners to seeing Camrys. And I
Mm.
really am surprised at the number of Camrys on the road. I'm happy. I mean, it's a great vehicle. But I'm always amazed at how many Camrys I actually do see.
Built in Kentucky, which is a good
Yeah.
thing. Well, I went back and I looked at 1986, which was 40 years ago. And in 1986, GM sold 4.5 million cars. Now they sell 2.8 million vehicles. Ford was 2 million. They're around 2 million now. Toyota was 641,000 vehicles compared to, so if you multiply 641 times five, you still don't get up to where GM is. And now GM's 2.8 million, Toyota's 2.5 million.
Wow.
It's a different world.
Jeez. That's crazy. It shows
And
that so GM has lost. They're the biggest market share lead. Well, the biggest market share leaders would be Chrysler Dodge, but General Motors versus Ford, that is huge market share loss.
it's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
holy crap. And the last thing I want to say about sales in 2025 is I used to look, let's say 2000, 25 years ago, there were enthusiast cars on the list. Ford Focus was always a top five car. You get a Focus with a manual, it was fun. Really, really good selling luxury car. The 3 Series BMW, you get a manual transmission. They're fun, they're cool. There were all these cool cars that were available, enthusiast cars. Just a Volkswagen Golf is a Jetta. These were enthusiast cars you can drive. You didn't have money, it was fun. It wasn't a sports car, but it still was fun. Those are basically banished. It's just crossovers and SUVs and the enthusiast cars, even like forget about GTI, just the Golf with a manual is fun. Focus, remember how fun the Focuses were?
Yes.
Enthusiast cars are gone.
Yep. It's
That's all I
it's just
got.
it's just a big it's been a huge I listen to Chris Harris's podcast and they lament all the time like we do that the automotive landscape is cookie cutter SUVs and crossovers and it's so freaking boring. And not only that, in America it's all gray, black or white cars. There's the color palette of American vehicles. Of course, I bought a carbonized gray F-150 because I couldn't find one that had the blue. I like that blue, but not with the options I wanted. Because I bought a used a 2-year-old truck. But yeah, the automotive landscape is
Yeah,
just
but Stefan,
blah.
you've got the Bullet Mustang.
Well, yeah, I got the bullet in green. Yep, I got the Miata in red, and then my Cobras paint the sample color too. So blue green. So
Yeah. We're the exception. And it used to be that, you could have regular people that buy these cars that were enthusiast cars.
yeah,
And now it's just not the case anymore. I always think of one of my favorite cars of all time would be the mid 80s 535i BMW. Was not an M car, but it had a manual transmission, inline six, fun to drive, uh, light. and cool. And a lot of people drove him around, even though they didn't know. One of my roommates from medical school is a dermatologist, not a car guy at all. And back in the 90s, he had a series of 5 Series BMW sedans, and he wasn't a car guy. But that was he had an enthusiast car, even though he wasn't an enthusiast. Now, even enthusiasts can't get enthusiast cars.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my 79 Accord that I bought, hatchback, 5 speed. It was a blast to drive. Comfortable, but it could handle it as a blast. But yeah, I get my wife's Hyundai Tucson and boring. Um,
That's where we are.
and
Well, anyway, we wish Adams well. Our usual contributor is still away and has family matters that he's dealing with, but we wish him well, Adams. And we have Jeff Bank occasionally. Didn't have Jeff Bank today, but we always enjoy him as well. I think that's all I have. Anything else, Devon?
I just be safe out there, and hopefully we won't freeze to death tonight here when it gets down to 17 degrees. But
All right.
all right, like, listen, subscribe, hit the bell, and keep checking back. And if you subscribe to get notified when we put up a new episode. Thanks, everybody.